Hello, my mathematicians. This is Miss Foster with Math in Focus, 4th grade, Chapter 7, Lesson 3, Comparing Decimals. As we head into these decimal comparisons, it's a different way to show that you really understand them, and it's a different way to investigate and analyze them so that you understand decimals with really rich, strong connections going on in your brain. As a reminder, we are talking about pieces and parts, like with fractions, but the place value is really going to help us here. So let's go take a look. To compare decimals, you'll be doing it in lots of different ways in your textbook. You might be given a number line like this, and they're asking us to mark an X to show where each decimal is located. As we do this, you may find yourself doing some very simple addition and subtraction as we look at a certain number more and a certain number less. So let's take a look at number 1, which I'm going to solve in black. 1/10 more than 3 2/10. Where would that be? Well, here's the whole number 3, and I can tell that because of where the decimal point is. And then this is 3.5, or 3 5/10. So 3 2/10 would be here. And then I'm going to do one more than that, which would be here. The actual decimal will be 3 3/10, because we just added another tenth. Let's do number 2 in red. Here they ask for us to put an X at the place that is 1/10 less than 3 8/10. Well, here's 3 5/10. Here's 4. So if this is 3 5/10, I would go 6/10, 7/10, 8/10. But when I look back at number 2, it tells me to do one less than that. So I'll drop back one and be right here at 3 7/10. Remember, that decimal shows us where we are going to say and. Ooh, here they want us to do a number 3. I'm going to do that in green. 2/10 more than 2 9/10. And here's where that regrouping may come in. So first I'm going to find 2 9/10. Here's 2. Here's 3. I know that 10/10 make one whole. So between 2 and 3 here, the whole numbers, that's 10/10. So this right here would be where 2 9/10 are. But I need to do 2 more. 1, 2. That will get me up to 3 1/10. And I had to do some regrouping there, didn't I? Because my single ones place changed. Finally, number 4, which I will be doing in blue, it says 3/10 less than 3 2/10. Again, I'm going to start at 3 and no tenths and go up to, that would be 3 2/10. But now I need to go 3 less, and I'll be regrouping here. Watch the single ones place change. 1, 2, 3. This is 2 9/10. And so if I'm really thinking about this, if I didn't got rid of these decimal points and did this as whole numbers, this would be 32. And 32 minus 3 would get you down to 29. So we just need to pay attention to how that decimal point is very similar to whole numbers. That gets me to 2 9/10. Now we have some hundredths to play with. Woohoo, wicked fun. And look at the difference in this number line. Let me get black back. Here I have 5/10, 6/10, and 7/10. And I say hundredths because if you take 10 and multiply it by 10, and remember when we multiply fractions and decimals, we're multiplying the number of pieces. We're not multiplying the amount. It's the same for decimals too. Then in between here, those would be hundredths because there are 10 hundredths in 1/10. 1/100th, look again, there's that placeholder 0. We're going to be using a lot of that. 1/100th more than 55 hundredths. But wait a minute, Miss Foster, couldn't this be 5/10 and 5/100ths? Yes, but we always refer to the lowest place of value in decimals because that will tell us our denominator. And so I'm calling them 55 hundredths, and so will you. In that case, you know what? I could actually add some zeros here, couldn't I? Because that changes 5/10 into 50 hundredths. And 6/10, whoa, Miss Foster, you did too much there. Let's just get rid of that little extra part. If I put a 0 here, I've kind of changed this just in my mind from 6/10 to 6/100ths. And if I put this 0 to the right of the decimal place after the 7, it changes the meaning of this for me from 7/10 to 7/100ths. It's the same amount, just different size pieces. And like I said in a previous video, when we get back to school, I will come, I will find you, I will wear my crown, and I will knight you and give you the great mathematical power to put as many zeros to the right of that decimal place as you want. You have the power, let's use it. Now, if I were just to pretend the decimals weren't there, 1 less than 55, well, this would be 55, and this would be 54, right? And I can just treat hundredths that way. That would be 54 hundredths. Let's take red for number 6 here. It says 1/100th less than 64 hundredths. Well, this is 60, that's 70. In between 60 and 70 hundredths, of course, is 65 hundredths. And let's see, 1 less would be 64 hundredths, and 1 less than that would be right here at 63 hundredths. Now, we have to still beware, because as you know, the superpower of place value is regrouping, and I am suspicious. I've not actually looked at these yet, but I think these last two might involve some, so pay attention to that. 2 more than 68 hundredths. Well, 2 more than 68 would be 70. So I'm going to say that that's going to be 70 hundredths. I can use my whole number and place value system knowledge to help me here. How about 3 less than 6/10ths? Really hard for me to think about until I used my power as a mathematician to change 6/10ths into 60 hundredths. 3 less than 60 would be 57. And so 3 less than 60 hundredths would be, let's see, 9, 8, 7, 57 hundredths, which I would write like that. Ooh, so much fun. Now, they're asking me to do a bit more here. 1/10th more, 1/100th more. I'm going to go with black for number 9. 19 hundredths. 1 more than 19 hundredths would be 20 hundredths. But here's a choice you get to make. If you choose to write that as 20 hundredths, it's correct. But if you want to simplify it, all you have to do is get rid of that 0 right there and make it 2/10ths. Oh, place value, you make decimals so easy. It's your choice. You do it how you want. All right, so 1/100th more than that. Ooh, I think I just did this wrong. No, I didn't. I did do it wrong. I totally did. Is it enough for me to start this video over? I'm actually going to just try to recover. I think I just went 1/100th more, because 19 hundredths plus 1/100th would be 20 hundredths. So even teachers make mistakes. Well, what if I'm adding a 10th? Well, it feels real icky to do this, doesn't it? So I'm just going to change that to 1/10th into 10 hundredths. And if I add 10 to 19, I would get 29. So if I add these two, that would give me 29 hundredths. There we go. Thanks for being patient with me, guys. They told me these videos don't have to be perfect, but I've been really trying. I need to ease off. Ooh, 1 73 hundredths. 1/10th more would be just 1 more in the tenths place, which would put an 8 right here. And no more hundredths, so I'm just going to bring that 3. That was adding that into that tenths place. But what about the hundredths? 1/100th more? Well, let's see. Those single ones aren't going to change. The tenths aren't going to change. We're just going to go up 1 in the hundredths place. Ah, now we're going less than. Okay. 1/10th less than the number. Well, here's tenths. I think I'm going to do my tenths in red this time. I'm just going to warn myself about that. If I were to take 1 away from those 2 tenths, it would leave me with 1/10. And I would have no single ones, 1/10 and 8 hundredths. But if I'm doing the hundredths place right here, then the single ones aren't going to change. And in this case, I don't need to do any regrouping. So the tenths place is not going to change. We're just going to get rid of one of those 8 hundredths, which would leave us with 7. Oh yes, this is a much better system. We're going to take 1/10 away from 3 and 6 hundredths. Well, I have plenty of tenths there, so I don't need to get any single ones or do that regrouping. 6 minus 1 is 5 in the tenths place. And I could put the 0 here, but just like up top, if you wanted to simplify that and make that into tenths, you could. Please don't do that, however, if you are dealing with money, because we always keep that placeholder 0 there for money. All right. Ooh, I think I'm going to have to do some regrouping on this one. So I need to take away 1/100th, but I don't have any. So what I'm going to do is take away one of these tenths and trade it in for 10 hundredths. So that will leave me with 3 in the single ones place, 5/10 and 10/100 minus 1/100 is 9. 3 and 59/100. Let's take a look at 7 and 1/10. Well, if I'm getting rid of that 1/10, it leaves me with 7. And you guys, you don't even need a decimal here. It's a whole number. If you want to put it there, you can, but you don't have to. How about if I'm taking away 1/100 from here? Here's where you need to use your power. As a mighty mathematician, I've given you the power to write as many zeros to the right of the decimal point as you want. I'm putting one there. Well, if I have 10/100 and I take away 1, that would leave me with 9/100, and I have to use this placeholder 0 here to knock that 9 into the hundredths place. My single ones will not change. Ooh, we've got a pattern here. So they're specifically going to give you patterns to finish that have to do with decimals like tenths and hundredths. So I'm just going to start looking here in the tenths place, and it's going 2, 4, 6. Well, then this would be 2 and 8/10. But uh-oh, I think the regrouping is coming. If I add another 2 to this 8, it makes 10. And 10/10, and I think this is one of the hardest pieces of regrouping to do here, 10/10 equals one single one, and that would get me up to 3. You may write the 3 as just a 3, or you may write it as a 3 and no tenths because that looks happier to you. It's your choice. Alrighty. Ooh, I think this one has something to do with hundredths. 34/100, 37/100. How does it change? Well, it looks to me like it's plus 3/100. Sorry that my zeros are a little squirrely there. So if I add 3 to 37, that would be 40, right? So I think that right here, it'll be 3 and 4/10. But if that makes you feel a little seasick, you just write that 0 right in there. I think that's going to help me because now I need to add 3/100 again. And so I'm going to write 3 and get my tenths in there and just put those 3/100 down. So much place value. I love you, place value. Ooh, when I look at these two, it's going down. Have some subtraction here. The change from here to here is not in the tenths place, and it's not in the single ones place. It's in the hundredths place, and it goes down by 2. So we're going 2 every time we go in this direction. I think this is my easiest point right here. So I'm going to just do 6, and 17 minus 2 would be 15, and that would be 15/100. But if I'm going -2 or -2 here, in this direction, I'm going to do +2. And if I'm just taking 19/100 and adding 2 to it, 19 plus 2 equals 21, doesn't it? So I think that gets me to 6 and 21/100. And I can quickly check, in this direction it's supposed to be -2/100. Whoops, I did not get all my places of value there. But if I have 23/100 and I get rid of 2 of them, I'm down to 21, so 6 and 21/100. And finally, our good old friends, the greater than and less than sign. We can use these to compare these decimals. So here I have 70/100, here I have 77/100, and this one right here, I don't even need to look at the tenths and hundreds. It has 2 in the single ones place. Totally, you are bigger. Ooh, what about this one? 2 and 76/100 versus 2 and 77/100. Okay, definitely. Look, they're the same in the single ones place. They're the same in the tenths place. We find out our information in the hundredths place. And they're also going to ask you to order things from least to greatest. I am running out of time in this video, so I'm just going to do this last one for you. And let me see. Well, when I'm looking at this one, I notice that all the single ones places are different. So I can just line them up by that. This would be 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this would be Miss Foster. I'm sorry, you guys. It says greatest to least, so I definitely didn't follow directions there. Let me try again. Okay, on this one, I just need to look at the single ones place. So this will be the greatest. This will be the second greatest, and this will be the third greatest. What about these guys over here? Well, this one has a single 1 in the ones place. These don't. They got a 0. So this is definitely the greatest right there. But now it's 51/100 compared to 57/100. You get to be number 2. You get to be number 3. Oh my goodness. I hope that you've seen, even as I've been struggling today, that I'm really using my understanding of whole numbers and place value to help me here. And that's exactly what you need to do. Hey guys, thanks for playing Comparing Decimals with me. I had so much fun playing math with you. Bye-bye for now.